Hi BookTube! My name is Sarah and welcome to The Bookish Knitter, and welcome to my week in books. So in this video I'm going to talk about all of the books that I finished reading this week, and at the very end I'm also going to share with you what I've been crafting on, which is knitting over the last week or so. So I'll share that with you as well. And yeah, so we're just going to talk about some books here, you guys, which is fantastic. So this is for week number 23, which is June the 1st through the 7th. So for those of you who may have missed over the last few weeks, I've been talking about this in videos, excuse me. This is what I'm calling my summer of category romance, where basically I am reading nothing but category romance books for the entire summer, June, July, and August, except for my nostalgia reads, which are like my Sweet Valley, Babysitters Club, stuff like that. So yeah, so I will be talking about 2 category romance, 2 Harlequin books, and a Sweet Valley High book. So I did finish 3 books this week, which I'm considering a win. It was a very good week for reading, I think. So the first book that I finished was Greek for Beginners by Braun. This is Harlequin Kiss, which is an older line that is no longer produced. It was more like I want to say a romantic comedy, sort of, in a way. And I always consider them to be like spicy, but this one actually was not, and I'll get into that in just a second. But this was really, really fun. This is book number 32 in the Harlequin Kiss line, and it was originally published in September of 2013. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars, and this is actually a 1 chili pepper rating for the spice level. So if you're curious about my spice ratings and what they mean, that will be listed below. If you go into the description and open up the description, I do have a list of what I consider the spice ratings to be. Now, I know everybody rates spice levels differently, depending on how graphic the scenes are and stuff like that. Generally, if there's like no adult content or whatever, like a 1 chili pepper basically it's a fade to black scene. So we know what happened, but we weren't in the room, if that makes sense. So yeah, so anyway, that's the spice ratings for the books. So this is the story of Darcy and Nick, and this one was super fun. So the reason I read this book is because I am participating over on B's channel, which is Mama Needs to Read Romance, and she is doing a fun summer event for all of her channel members, of which I am one. And basically every week we're traveling to like a new location. And for the month of June, it's like Mediterranean. So for the first week, it was Greece. And now for week 2, we're starting week 2 today on Sunday. We're going to be traveling to Italy. And she does like all these these things, like she gives book recommendations and recipes. And it's just been a delightful bit of fun. She created a passport and everything. So for the first week, it being Greece, that's why I read this book. So like I said, this is the story of Darcy and Nick. So basically what happens is that Darcy was going to get married, decided either a week or a few days before the wedding that she didn't want to get married to this guy named Tad. They just, it wasn't working out. He had having a hard time cutting the apron strings, as they say. They were going to basically move into his mother's house and build an addition on, and she's just like, whoa, that is not happening. There were a lot of other reasons, but that was like a big deciding factor. So she ended up breaking off the engagement. And in the breakup, he got the condo that they lived in Buffalo, New York, along with their evil cat. And she got their honeymoon to Greece. So she ends up going to Greece. Now, the thing is that Tad booked this like as a discount deal, kind of like a, one of those like all-inclusive things where, a sightseeing tour package, but he's like, oh, I got such a good deal on it. Well, there was a reason he got such a good deal on it. It's because the tour group was like, the guy was a drunk and he spent all the money on other things, didn't pay the hotels, didn't pay anybody. So Darcy arrives at the airport, finds all this out, and she's kind of stuck. She doesn't have a lot of money. She can't really pay to stay in Greece for very much longer. And then she happens to meet Nick. And, he was actually flying out of the airport, but he kind of really felt bad for her with all this stuff because he knows the guy who runs this tour group. And he kind of knew what was happening to her and he felt bad. He didn't know about the whole breakup. But, just that he thought just a friend had booked this, not knowing and yada, yada, yada. So the two of them kind of strike up a friendship, and it's kind of a little bit of they had a thing for each other right from the beginning. They had an attraction to each other, let's put it that way. But that really took a while to establish. He absolutely would have jumped into bed with her right at the beginning, but he respected her boundaries, and, things came out later about her breakup with her ex, and then there was something in his past, like his brother is getting married to his ex-girlfriend kind of a thing. So it's all this stuff going on, but it all takes place in Athens and it was fantastic. Nick becomes like her tour guide and he takes her around to all these like the Acropolis and, you know, like stuff like that. It was, you know, that bit of Greece and then all the food. His grandmother does a lot of cooking for them and they go to restaurants. There's a lot of talk about the Greek food. So, I mean, it was really fantastic. You're really immersed in Greece in this book. And I really, really liked it. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a lot of fun. Great summer romp. Yeah, I absolutely recommend that you give it a shot. The next book that I read was Dear Sister by Francine Pascal, which is the 7th book in the Sweet Valley High series. I gave this one 3.5 stars, and this is a cupcake. Now, the reason I give a spice rating to these books is because there can be some romance in these. Now, would any of these ever get a 1-star rating? I don't think so, if I'm remembering correctly. However, things get pretty close to that in this book. And these are 16-year-olds that we're dealing with. So in this book, this is kind of like the end of a cliffhanger for the previous book. And I'm not giving much away because the series goes on for another 140 some odd books. But basically in book 6, Elizabeth is in a motorcycle accident with her boyfriend Todd. And she's in a coma at the end of book 6. And it's like, oh, will she wake up? Because these are just like a soap opera. And it makes you think, you know, that the entire back of this book just talks about Elizabeth being in a coma. Elizabeth's only in a coma for the first chapter of the book, and then she wakes up from this coma. And she's not the same person she was. She's acting she's acting more Jessica than Jessica. She stops caring about school. She's more caring about her looks and boys, you know, like all these things. And she totally dismisses Todd. She's, you know, it's, you know, this whole thing. So anyway, she starts kind of, like I said, not skipping school, but just not caring about her grades anymore and basically not caring about anything other than herself and what she wants to do because she wants to have fun and all these things. And Jessica is slowly kind of turning into Elizabeth in a way, becoming the more responsible sister. So the one thing in this book that I wanted to talk about is the fact that this was completely glossed over, but reading it now in 2025, as opposed to when it was written, was it 84? When did this book originally come out? April of 1984. So, Elizabeth goes on a date with Bruce Patman. And it's basically an almost date rape situation, to be completely honest with you. Like, he gets her drunk, and he takes her back to, like, his family's cabin or whatever it was. Beach house cabin, I can't remember what it was. And, you know, she kind of, like, she's in the room and he's getting more alcohol because that's a thing that you do. And then she gets up and it's in the dark and she trips and she falls and she hits her head. Giant spoiler alert for the book here. And then she regains her senses and she becomes Elizabeth again, if you will, because again, these are just like a freaking soap opera. And then she realizes what's happening. So she like has to fight Bruce off. And he's like, you know, you came up here, you wanted this, blah, 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 blah. And then you start to think, it's like, is this the kind of guy Bruce is? Is like, this is, and nobody's talking about it? Like, if this was 2025, that would be the basis of the entire book. But it's glossed over. Now, much later in the series, I think it's book number like 97, if I'm remembering correct. It was kind of like one of those pivotal books that really stood out to me in the series. And it's called Don't Go Home with John. And it's about a character, and I'm not going to name it. His name is John, but he's pretty pivotal in the series. And basically he's out on a date with Lila. And that's basically what happens, the whole date rape situation. I mean, almost happens. Like, basically it's, and then I can't remember the exact plot of the story or how it ends. But I remember that being a very pivotal book at the time. Now, that's book 97. That's 90 books from this one. And if you figure at 12 books published per year, you're looking at, that's a good, what, at least, I think it was probably a decade after this one was written. So, like, the mid-90s. Much different thought process around something like that then. And again, I'm not saying it was forgiven back then, but in a book like this, it was very much glossed over. Like, and I feel like that was the case in a lot of the, like, I felt like this happened a lot, especially with Bruce. Like, creepy. So anyway, long story short, that was I did enjoy it. Like, I know that sounds weird, that I do enjoy these books, but they're just such a nostalgic kick for me. But it really gives you a lot to think about now to how people thought about stuff before, if that makes sense. And the last book that I finished this week was Ozarks Double Homicide by Maggie Wells. This is Harlequin Intrigue number 2149, and I believe this was published in 2023 or 2024. I cannot absolutely remember off the top of my head. And this is the second book in the Arkansas Special Agent series. I gave this book 3.5 stars, and this spice level was Cupcake. There is no adult content in this book at all. Zero, zip, zilch. It was spicier in the Sweet Valley High book. In all honesty. So this is the second book, like I said, in the Arkansas Special Agent series. And in my opinion, and I don't normally say this, read this trilogy in order. So I still need to read book 3, and I'm very much looking forward to getting to it. But each book kind of carries off the book before. So everyone is separate. You're getting 3 separate couples, 3 separate stories from start to finish. However, each story has something to do with the one before. So without giving too much away for the first book, which is Ozarks, Missing Person, I think it was called, which I really enjoyed. I actually enjoyed that one more than this one. The killer in that book ends up being murdered in this book, if that makes sense. So again, I don't want to give anything too much away. So Michelle, who's our female lead in this book, is a lawyer working for the firm. And that is like this law firm is really embroiled in all 3 of these books. They're a very key player in all 3 of these books. But she's actually working undercover in this firm. She's actually working for like the FBI, looking into like campaign funds and stuff like that. And then Ethan is our cop who is investigating the murder of these 2 people. So basically what happened is that these 2 people were murdered, and I don't want to tell you who they were, so I don't want to spoil book number 1 for those who have not read book number 1. And Michelle is kind of the lawyer, because the lawyer for a character, again, I don't want to spoil anything, who is kind of being looked at for the murder, if you will. But she's actually a lawyer, but she's also working for the FBI undercover. So it's this whole thing. So her and Ethan, she ends up telling him later on what she's doing, why she's there. They start working together. There is a romance between her and Ethan, but that is so far secondary. It's not even funny. I really, truly, unless it was for the last chapter, wouldn't even consider this to be a romantic suspense. Because the romance comes at the very, very end. Like, where he's like, hey, are you going to stick around town for a bit longer? Because I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. And she's like, yeah. And they kiss, and then that's the end. And that's literally what happened in book number 1, too. So that's what I mean when I talk about the difference between intrigue and romantic suspense. That intrigue, very, very, very much, the romance is secondary. Like, if you want the mystery, you're going to get the mystery. If you go into the romantic suspense, much, much more, the romance comes first, and then the mystery, whatever happens, comes second. So, yeah. I love both of them. I absolutely love both of them, and I really like the mystery in this one. Now, the reason I think that I liked book 1 more than this one is because this one was very political, and I'm not a political person. That's just not where my interest lies. This deals a lot with, like I said, campaign funds and some judge and this and that. And it's just like a lot of that stuff, that's not a big interest to me. It was still a really good story, and it did keep me guessing as to the whodunit. But, not as good as book number 1, but still really good. And I'm looking forward to wrapping up the trilogy, hopefully in the next month or so. So yeah, so that is everything that I read this week, you guys. I'm not going to share with you what I'm currently reading because I do the daily reading vlogs. And, excuse me, I'm just reaching here. And I share in those videos what I'm reading on a day-to-day basis. So you can watch those videos if you want to know what I'm currently reading. But I thought, like I said, I would show you guys my knitting. And I've worked on a bit of my knitting over the last week or so. I actually just bought a cross-stitch pattern yesterday. Maybe I'll pop it up here to show you guys. This is by a designer called The Witchy Stitcher. And I really want to start this. I have to order the fabric for it. So I'm going to order the fabric for it. I'm probably going to start in the next week or 2 whenever the fabric arrives, because I'm going to order it off of Etsy from a local seller. But I just don't want to have to hunt it out at like a Michael's store or something like that. So anyway, it's by The Witchy Stitcher, like I said, and she's doing this series of patterns for the tarot. And I love tarot cards. I've been reading tarot cards since I was like 13 years old. I just think they're really fun. So she's doing this set of cross-stitch pieces that are based on the major arcana. Which for those of you who follow the tarot, know anything about the tarot, it's like the Fool, the Priestess, the High Priest, the Lovers, the Star, the Sun, all those major cards, not the Ace of, Spades, not the Ace of Spades. Wasn't that a singing group? How many of you have the Sign song now running through your head? You're welcome. Like, you know, the Ace of Swords or anything like that. Or the, you know, Page of Cups or whatever, the 10 of Cups. These are just the major arcana. But anyway, so she's releasing them to her Patreon supporters first. 2 every month, I think, or 1 a month or something like that. And then 3 months after they've gone to the Patreon exclusive, then they come to her store. So I think she's released about 8 of them to her store now. So there's going to be 22 in total. And I'm super excited. So I'll slowly start getting them. And my goal is I'm going to buy them and then slowly work on them one at a time. I love them. So the first one I bought was Strength. Because I love it. This is how whimsical they are. So it's like, this is a panda bear holding 2 ice cream cones, like for strength. The Lover's card is 2 aliens. What else can I tell? What other ones have I looked at and seen? I think the Fool is like a unicorn or something like that. They're just delightful, like very 1980s, very nostalgia. I'm loving the bright colors against that black. It's going to be hard to stitch against that black fabric, so I am going to be stitching it in 14 count. For those of you who cross-stitch will completely understand what I'm talking about. It's the fabric, it's the number of stitches per inch that you get on the fabric. It's 14 count. So yeah, I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. And they're about that. Now, she showed, I saw on her Instagram, that she actually created like a border, so you could do them all on like this huge tapestry that would go on your wall. But I thought, just the thought of stitching something like, buying a piece of fabric that big. I'd rather do them piecemeal, and then I'll just hang them all up on my wall at some point eventually, which I think will be cool. That's what I'm going to end up doing anyway. So yeah, so rambling on about cross stitch. I haven't even started that yet, but when I do, I will show it to you guys. I know I've got like 3 other cross stitch pieces on the go. I need to finish off the mansion. I need to get back to my cross stitch too, you guys, because I have missed doing it over the last few months. But I've been working on my knitting, mainly because it's just easy to pick up and just do a little bit of knitting. So at nighttime, I've been working a little bit on my sweater. So this is the Flax by Tin Can Knits. My yarn is orange. I can't remember. I think it's Heartland yarn. I'm almost certain. And I think the colorway is Yosemite. So this is the yarn. It's orange. I love the color orange. This is going to be my nice fall sweater. I've knit this pattern before a couple of times. I had knitted further into this, but I ended up ripping it out because I wasn't happy with the way it had been a while since I've knit a sweater. So I've gone back and I've corrected what I've done. So this is how far I am. I'm working on the raglan increases. Again, if you're a knitter, you'll totally understand what I'm saying. So basically this sweater is knit in one piece from the top down. So you start here and you do these increases to do your arms and stuff like that. And then you get to a point and you put the sleeves on hold, and then you knit down the rest of the body, and then you pick up the stitches and knit each sleeve. So there's no seaming of this sweater together. It's knit seamlessly in one piece, basically. So I am still increasing for the sleeves, which you can kind of see here. Like these, like, it's hard to see. So like these are like the shoulders here, right? And then these are the arms. The arms have this cool patterning on them. So that pattern will go all the way down the arm. It's very, very cool. I love this sweater. Like I said, I've knit it before. This is, I think, my third time knitting it. I can't remember. I think it's my second. I've knit this for myself once in much smaller yarn. I used like sock weight yarn, like very thin yarn. So this is knitting up a lot faster because it's like medium weight yarn, like your worsted weight as they call it. And I've also knit it for somebody's little kid. I didn't knit this for Caitlin. I think I knit it for a friend's daughter or son or something like that. I can't remember. It was years ago. So anyway, so I've been working on that. Excuse me. Sorry, I've been talking a lot, you guys. Apologies, my Starbucks. Oh gosh, that's so good. That is the passion fruit tea with just light lemonade. It's delicious. I love it. So that's what I've been working on at night. And in the mornings, when I get up and I have my new routine now is I get up, I make a cup of coffee, and I sit for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and I do a little bit of knitting, and I listen to whatever book I'm reading on Speechify. So like I listened to parts of Greek for Beginners and Ozarks Double Homicide on Speechify, but mostly I read them in like ebook format, but in the mornings I would listen to them on Speechify. So I'm working on my sock. I did show this to you guys on Monday in a vlog. So I marked where I was on Monday. So I just thought I'd show you guys how far I've gotten. So that's how far I was last Monday. And I'll move this marker after I'm done recording. And then I'll show you guys next week how far I've gotten. So I'll probably be into the foot by next week. So this is the Chihuahua Dance Party sock yarn by Dancing Dog Dancing dog dye works. I love it. So like I said, this yarn is kind of what they call pooling. So you're getting like these, it kind of looks like a twisty stripe around. Like, I really like the way it's coming out. So I'm just doing a basic knit stitch. I was going to do a pattern in it, but I couldn't be bothered. I'm like, I'm doing this at 6 o'clock in the morning. I just want mindless. I just want to sit and knit and drink my coffee and listen to my book. So that's what I've been doing. So yes, I've been working on my sock. So yay. And there's the yarn. And I did ask you guys the one time, I'm like, what color should I do my nails this week? So I went with the purple. Doesn't quite match the purple. It's not quite as dark. Can I get some of the purple here? Yeah, there it is. So it's not quite as dark as the purple. Oh, it's pretty close actually. Not quite as dark, but close enough. So yeah. So maybe next week I'll do green. I spied the green when I was sitting there after she was painting my nails the purple. And I'm like, ooh, next time might have to be like that green or something like that for my nails. Might be really cool. But anyway, so that's what I've been working on there. So that's it, you guys. That's all I got for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, what did you guys read last week? What was your favorite book that you read last week? And if you like this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more videos. And until my next one, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.